It's on.
Thank you. Okay, today is March 9th. It's 7:35, and I'm calling our meeting to order. Welcome everyone. I'm glad you showed up because we have a really nice evening plan. We have a couple of speakers this time. So first, I would like to welcome our speakers. Thank you for coming along and being willing to present to our meeting tonight. I thank you so much. First, I would like to start with a roll call with everyone here so that we can have it for the record who is here. So if you could just state your name and if you are a member of Community Board 17 and if you are a member of the committee, that would be great. Don't everybody start at once.
Sarah Busby, Housing Committee member.
Thank you.
Bella Totwan, Chair of the Park and Beautification Committee, B17.
Thank you. Next, anybody?
Kwame Afray, Chair of Land Use for Community Board 17.
Thank you. Next. Who's on the line? Who's speaking? Who's that? Jay, say your name, Jay, for your record.
Resident.
Thank you. Next. Thank you. Next. Anybody? I'm seeing names, a lot of names. I'm not hearing voices. Jay, you raising your hand, say your name. Where you from?
Sure. Jay Sorid, just appearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next. I have 16 people here and hardly any names saying.
Kirk, I'm Kirk Goodrich. I'm one of the gas Monadnock development.
Thank you. Welcome. Glad to have you. Next.
George board member.
Thank you. Next. I see somebody here named.
Sean Jones, New York City Department of Buildings.
Thank you. Next. I'm seeing somebody named Loretta. Who's that? Hello?
Can I say something?
Not yet. We're doing a roll call right now.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, what's your name?
Hi, sorry. This is Damaris Valero from the New York City Department of Buildings.
Thank you. I'm
Frank
seeing.
Fontana from Department of Buildings as well.
Thank you. Do we see any more names here? Am I missing anybody?
Hi, this is Jazette, also from Monadnock Development.
Thank you. Any more names? I think we have all the names, right? We got everyone? Okay. That sounds good. So we got that for the record. Community expectations. What I would like for everyone to do is after we listen to our speakers, then we can have a respectful conversation. If you have questions for them, that would be great. But I don't want any yelling and talking over each other. I want everyone to wait their turn. If you would like to speak, raise a hand. So this way I can see your hand and give you the floor. So this way we have a nice productive conversation because we don't want, a lot of unnecessary yelling. We won't get any work done that way. So if we can be respectful of one another when someone is on the floor talking, that would be awesome. And we want to just get to some of the order of business, just we get that out of the way, and then we can listen to our speakers. And that would be the approval of the minutes, of the last minutes. They've been sent out to everyone. Hope you had a chance to see them. Does anyone have any corrections on them or any changes that we need to make before we approve them? Anyway, someone just joined us on the phone. Can you say your name, please? Hello? Who just joined us on the phone? Your last phone, 2 digits is 79. Okay, they're not hearing me. Okay, back to the minutes. We need to approve our minutes. So if someone would like to make a motion to approve our January minutes, that would be great. if you're in a committee, only committee members can do this. So
Motion to approve.
say your name, please.
Tamara Busby.
Thank you. Is there a second? Would someone like to second the approval of the minutes? Come on. Someone like to second the approval of the minutes from January?
Could we table that on, for another time when we have quorum, or do we
I
have to
guess
approve
we-
at this moment?
I guess we have no choice. We're gonna have to table them. Okay, I would prefer to not have to table our minutes, but we have no choice. Okay, so we're gonna start with our first speakers. On the stage first, on deck first, will be Mr. Goodrich coming from Monodoc Development. So, Mr. Goodrich, you have the floor.
Good evening, Ms. Fields. Nice to meet you. I don't think we've met before. And good evening to everybody, actually. So for me, this is a great night because I've been in the affordable housing field since I was a teenager and done projects in a lot of places, presented to a lot of community boards. This is the first time I've gotten to present in the community board that's in my neighborhood. I grew up, my parents came from Belize in 1962. I grew up on Rogers between Avenue D and Clarendon. I lived 9 blocks away from there in what I call the 11203. I live in the 11203. That's my home. So to be able to present the board 17 is a highlight for my career, and it's been a long career. I'm old now. I just wanted to share that before I talked about the project. I always talk about projects, spend my life talking about projects. I'm going to talk about a project tonight, but I wanted to let the board members know how much this meant to me to be able to present to you. I grew up in Clarendon Road Church, started going there when I was 9. And then when I left the city for a few years in grad school in my 20s, I've been in a few places, but Clarendon Road is a church I grew up in. So I really am a East Flatbush kid, and this means a lot to me. So I'm going to share our presentation. I won't be long. I'll leave a lot of time for questions. I don't like to hear my voice as much as I did when I was younger, so it won't be long. But let me share the presentation here. Give me a second. Can folks see that? I think this is the first time I've shared a presentation on Zoom. I'm sorry, I'm back. I'm on Zoom. Can you see that, or do I need to?
I can see it. It's light, but I can see it. We can see it.
Okay. First, let me give you a little background. So a background on myself, background on Monadnock. So I started in the affordable housing world long ago, inspired by Nehemiah in my senior year in college. I studied my undergraduates in affordable housing. I actually, when I was a senior, interviewed the folks who were doing the Nehemiah project, and as good fortune would have it, I've been Monadnock has been their partner for many years, and I actually day-to-day and on day-to-day basis with my team have managed that relationship for the last 13 years. I've been involved in finance now as a developer, and our company is a construction company that was started in the 70s. We have a development business, which I'm the president of and partner in. And one of the projects that
Listen, can you hold on for a second? I want to mute everyone's phones just like you because we're hearing someone. Ms. Lyons, can you mute everyone and just leave Mr. Goodrich talking?
Thank you. So the project I want to present tonight is actually a project we, Monadnock and CB Emanuel prevailed and was awarded a few years ago, Utica Crescent, and it involves the new construction of 322 affordable units on Utica. Actually, the project extends from Utica Avenue through to East 49th Street, and the frontage of it extends from Rutland Road down through the block. It's currently a parking lot, and will end up being 322 affordable units, and a new dialysis center, social service space, grocery store, etc. So let me walk you through this presentation. So as I said, it's 322 units, 11,000 square feet of courtyard and terraces. Catholic Charities is going to have office space there. The 67th Precinct Clergy Council is going to have space in the project. I think Pastor Galbraith, who's the pastor at Kleiner Road Church, is also involved in the Clergy Council. And so the idea is to have some community space there as well. We're going to have space for One Brooklyn Health. I think that's going to be a dialysis center. We're going to have a grocery store that fronts Utica Avenue, 20,000 feet, and 92 parking spaces. The parking spaces are going to be a combination of surface parking and underground parking. As we've scrolled through this, you're able to see some of the renderings and images of what the building will look like. It's actually going to be a portion of the building will front Utica, a more substantial portion will front East 49th Street. This is a look at the floor plan for the ground floor. You see the parking, surface parking here off to the right, the 67 Clergy Council space, the grocery store. We have a lobby that you can enter from East 49th Street. There's also a lobby on the opposite end on Utica Avenue, One Brooklyn Health space, and Catholic Charity space. The facade, this view here is actually the facade from Utica Avenue. You see the bus, grocery store. Some of the amenities, and I'll actually show you the amenity of the second floor interior courtyard terrace space, but we'll have community rooms, we'll have fitness rooms, laundry rooms, free Wi-Fi, a landscape courtyard, co-working space with computers, bike storage. The moment, of course, is frustrated because Tom just shit the bed on. And then sustainability, which has really been one of the signatures of our company, that we build sustainable buildings. That is our reputation. We're going to have 89 units for frail elderly. Senior housing has kind of been a signature of my career. Home ownership and senior housing, along with a variety of other things, and have been a signature of my career. Here, we're going to have 89 units of senior housing. They're going to be services and provided through Catholic Charities. We're going to, of the 89 senior units, they're going to be 28 units, a studio, 61, and one bedroom. People will be able to pay only 30% of their rent, which is normally what you see on Section 8, although this is not a Section 8 building. We're going to have another 231 units of family housing. And what I asked my team to do was give you, instead of giving you AMIs only, to give you AMI and rent. So you see there'll be a variety of rent levels here, 100% affordable to different rent levels. We have studios at $579, one bedrooms at $617, two bedrooms at $731, three bedrooms at $835. The next income level, studios at $1,280, one bedrooms at $1,368, etc. The idea here is to create a cascade of income levels and senior housing. It's not dissimilar for what we've done in other parts of the city. And so it's a combination of family, affordable, and senior housing. The other thing I wanted to do was show you some of the courtyard space. So there's going to be a building that's around 9 stories massed on Utica, another building, I think that's around 12 stories massed on East 49th. But in between, on the second level, above the lobby space and the supermarket, there's going to be a courtyard. And on each side of the courtyard, we'll have an exercise room on either side, community room on either side, and a playroom. In the courtyard, we have seating areas. It's landscaped, an activity area. And this is really for residents of the building. I insisted that we actually, I live on New York Avenue, and I'm troubled by the all the buildings that have gone up that have unremarkable designs. And I encouraged our team, directed our team to deliver buildings that were becoming of my neighborhood. And so I think what we're going to end up with at Utica Crescent is going to be a high amenity building that's affordable. The truth of the matter is, all the buildings that are happening on New York Avenue, on Brooklyn Avenue, and throughout our neighborhood, we don't really know who's building them. They don't make themselves accountable to our community. Part of the reason I'm here tonight is because even though this is a state project and the community board jurisdiction is really focused on city projects, is because I want to make myself accountable. I think that's important. For those of you who want to know, more than 30% of Utica Crescent will be owned by Black people. Bramwell of CB Emanuel is an African-American developer. His father is of Jamaican descent. Formed Shinda Management.
Yeah.
The only Black business that's older than Shinda Management in New York is probably Allen's Bakery. So Chris and I are partners on this. It means a lot to both of us. So from my perspective, this development is a best practice in the affordable housing world. It has significant Black ownership, not only Black ownership, Black Caribbean ownership. It's going to be a seminal project. It's a beautiful project. It's affordable. It's a pinnacle for my career. Um, and I've spent time building projects and financing projects all over the city. So my position is I didn't want to come into my neighborhood for less than we've done in different parts of the city. So I'm going to stop there and take questions, but I hope I've made clear what my commitment is and what my focus is.
Thank you so much. So we have questions. Oh, we have questions already. I see Mr. Louis Pettis first, and then we get you, Chair Kwame. Mr. Pettis, you have the floor.
Thank you. Indeed, it is a very handsome building in terms of its massing and its material. I am very curious though. You seem to have a very good spread in terms of your KPI and how you're allotting that within the brackets of AMI. You mentioned that this is a state building, so I imagine that you're getting some kind of state subsidy apart from whatever partnerships you may have with those that are going to occupy the building, like Catholic Charities and the like. But I'm curious, what kind of subsidy are you getting from the state? Is this is not a 421A building from what I'm understanding, right? Because we've passed that threshold, or are you hoping that this will be a 421A building?
It's not a 421A building. So this is a tax credit building. So the tax abatement. So for those of you who are not familiar, 421A is a tax abatement program that is typically associated with market rate rental. This is 100% affordable tax credit, low-income housing tax credit. The tax abatement is what we call a 420C, which is an as-of-right tax abatement. So it's no 421A. The property is being purchased from the state at appraised value. The subsidy from the state is tax exempt bond volume cap, which generates 4% tax credits. And the subsidy normally associated with tax credit for the last many decades is a capital subsidy that varies from year to year in terms of the scale of the project and the term sheet. So the state of New York puts out a term sheet. You underwrite your project based on the term sheet, and they approve it. So the financing is unremarkable. For those live doing this stuff, it's pretty routine financing.
It's the first I'm hearing of this 420C, which I'm very curious about, because once again, it seems like your brackets are very broad, which is refreshing because I don't often see that. And I'm also pleased to hear that you're targeting the seniors and the affordable bracket very aggressively. So I'd be very curious to explore this 420C abatement and the financing behind such a project. I don't think you mentioned that these are there's upwards of 300 units.
322 units.
The 322 units. And I was looking at your plan very briefly, but is this a quality housing project, or does it not? Does it, because it's a state project, you don't have to meet those requirements?
The state of New York goes through a approval process for zoning purposes. That's distinct from what we'd have to do normally. our Jazan, who's part of my team, can describe how we actually file the building if she's on.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Right. So this project is going through a GPP modification. GPP stands for General Project Plan. And it's a set of guidelines that, you know, our design team has worked with ESD, Empire State Development, to come up with to make sure that the building makes sense contextually within the fabric of Utica, of East 49th Street, and the nearby hospital campus, which is across the street from East 49th Street. So the GPP board hearing was last month, and the public hearing will actually be next month. So there's a public hearing process. You know, there's an opportunity for people from the community to comment during that period. And then the adoption of the GPP is what gives us a zoning override for the project.
So just to be clear,
Mr. Cepeda, we're going to give other people a chance to talk.
just to be,
Could somebody, I'm sorry, I can't hear. Could
just to,
Hold on, just 1 minute, because I want to give other
just to
people
be
a chance
clear,
to talk.
just
But,
to be
I
clear,
have-
the GPP,
Hold on, Mr. Cepeda.
the GPP overrides.
Mr.
Mr.
Cepeda. Hold
Yeah.
on, I want to give other people a chance to talk. We'll get back to you if you have more questions. But first I want to say, if someone has their background noise happening, you need to be muted unless you're talking, because we can't hear what's going on. So please mute yourself if you're not talking. Mr. Frey, you have the floor now.
Thank you, Chair Fields. Good evening, Mr. Goodrich.
Good evening.
Just for clarity, I mean, I understand that it's a state project, so that means that obviously this wouldn't be going through the other proceeding. I just want you to state that for everyone to understand. And secondly, your model for the income-based solution for the senior housing, do you have other models that would incorporate maybe a portion or percentage of the other available family units that could also be income-based? And is this plan based on a time scale and schedule, or is it going to shift based on market conditions? This is in regards to the actual units.
Yeah, so the reason we were able to get that subsidy for the senior units is because we're serving frail elderly. It's a supportive population. And it's a priority for me. I made it a priority in my career. And so family populations can get a similar treatment if they are part of a supportive population. Victims of domestic violence, for example, is a population. And so in this case, we specifically sought and received support to serve frail elderly in East Flatbush, which I wanted to do, was important to me. In terms of family populations, I wanted to be sure that that we could serve as broad a group of families as possible, and at a variety of income levels. I think we've done that here. So that's the context. This is a state project, state owned. The land is state owned. It doesn't need to go through a ULURP process for the city, although I've done that many times in my career, including 4 times in the last year, and twice in East New York in the last year. One with Reverend Bernard on the Innovative Urban Village, which is 2,000 units, and at the same time with Reverend Brawley and East Brooklyn congregations to do a 190 unit senior project, which is 100% Section 8 in Spring Creek. That was just in the last year.
Thank you. I see Mr. Sorey, your hand is raised. You can got the floor. Briefly.
Hello, hi. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Okay, great. I had two. First of all, I thought it was very informative. I liked your the way that you presented it in terms of giving a lot of information on the AMI. I was impressed by that, what you did on that. My question, 2 questions regarding parking, which is a major concern for people in the neighborhood, parking, if you can take us through that. And the other aspect is the amount of, let's say, supportive housing. When we talk about the frail seniors, how many of those frail seniors are coming from, let's say, homeless shelters, from prisons, from psych wards? Because I was looking at the Empire State guidelines of the definition of frail seniors, and it said it includes like a whole conglomerate of, it could be people coming from like from the nursing homes, and it could also be people coming from seniors who are coming from different places like the shelters and different things, which is important. So my question is that could you take us through the parking aspect of it? Like one of the things it mentions is there's parking for 314 vehicles. 284 of them are reserved for Kingsbrook employees. So does that mean that there's only like 30 spots that are being given for the family housing? So if you could talk about the parking, and if you could talk about if there's any restrictions on the frail seniors coming from like the homeless shelters and stuff.
We have 92 parking spaces on our site. There's additional parking on the campus of Kingsbrook Jewish, which we're enhancing through stackers. We're doing exactly what One Brooklyn asked us to do in terms of the execution. Lorraine Brown, who runs One Brooklyn, who's I consider one of the best hospital executives in the city, and who actually, that institution actually owns the site, have directed our efforts around parking with her team. And we've complied with that request. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we have to, in order to serve frail elderly, we'll comply whatever the ESHI guidelines are. I suspect there'll be a combination of people who, and I'm not part of the marketing process typically, and the marketing process for city projects and state projects are different. But we'll comply with the state marketing process. I suspect to have a diverse population of frail elderly in the building. From my perspective, the city is in a housing crisis. If there is an ability to serve frail elderly at these income and rent levels, you do it. That's my experience in executing projects like this. I don't follow a paradigm around deserving or undeserving. That's not my faith or my paradigm. I think from my perspective, I try to deliver quality, affordable housing, different income levels and demographics consistently. And that's what I've done in my career. That's what we're doing here.
Thank you.
I'd just like to clarify something because I didn't get the exact answer. When you were talking about the parking, how many parking spots will there be for the family housing? That's people who are making money.
There's going to be 92 parking spaces on site. Off site on the campus of Kingsbrook Jewish Hospital, there is going to be parking as well and stackers.
Okay, so the 92.
Hold on, Mr. Soren. We have someone else who wants to speak as well. Hold on 1 second.
I know, but can I just get clarification on the parking? It's a major issue. We haven't got.
He said there was going to be 92 parking spaces. He answered that question.
No, but the question is that for the Kingsbrook employees? That's my question. Who's it for? Is it for the Kingsbrook employees? Is it for the commercial? Is it for because it specifically says in the GPP that of the 314 vehicles, 284 is for Kingsbrook employees. So you mentioned that you're providing 92
on site.
Oh, what? Hold on. Ms. Bennett, you have the floor.
Yes. I want to find out. You said you were going to frail seniors.
Hold on, we can't hear you. Your phone is coming out is muzzled. Your mouth's too close to the receiver.
Hear me now? Can you
That's a
hear me
little better.
now?
Yes, that's better.
Now, what I said, you said you're going to do frail seniors, but in other groups, what are the other groups exactly?
I don't know if I heard you clearly, but we're serving frail elderly.
Yes. And other groups? What other groups?
Family housing. I mean, frail elderly is 89 units and family housing is 231 units.
Is that going to be similar to the project that was built on Rogers Avenue, right off of Farragut Road?
I don't know that project, so I couldn't tell you.
Well, they mix frail seniors in with other groups, like you said, families, and the seniors are being terrorized right now. Because I spoke with them.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with the project on Rogers Avenue, although I grew up on Rogers between Avenue D and Clarendon. I don't know who developed it. I couldn't tell you anything about it.
Oh, well, they put it right next to the firehouse, and most of the seniors, they want to move out because the family members are rather violent.
Okay, I couldn't tell you about that project.
Nothing to do.
Thank you. Ms. Kwashi, you have the floor.
Okay, just to pipe in with Ms. Bennett, will there be security on the premises, since you're going to have a lot of, recreation spaces, and you're going to have things for families like children and things of that nature?
So we are going to have, we've built into the budget a security person. Jazen, I just want to make sure I don't have the numbers up. That's correct, right?
Right. Due to the frail elderly senior population of this project, we will have a desk attendant that will be available at all times. We also have a security camera and access control system across the building. This secures, the lobby spaces, amenity spaces. It restricts the different sections of the building to the residents that can access them. So yes, we do have security across the project.
Thank you, Josephine.
Thank you. Are there any more questions for Mr. Goodrich? Mr. Sori, I'll let you have the floor, but you need to be brief. We can't take over, okay? Just a brief question.
Speaking of not taking over, I think Miss Bennett I'm not sure if Miss Bennett has her hand up, but it was before me. So if Miss Adele Bennett has a question, I'll let her go because her hand was up before me. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is, in the RFP for the 43rd Assembly, Diana Richardson specifically said in the 43rd Assembly RFP that this was based upon. She said, don't mix vulnerable populations. And in it, it was very specific saying, don't mix seniors, and as an example, with, let's say, the mental people who have a serious mental illness. You don't want to mix two. You don't want to have seniors in the same place as the mentally ill. My concern right here is frail seniors. The definition of frail seniors, it says seniors must meet the ESSHI definition of homeless. So, I mean, like I'm listening to this, and it's so impressive that it's Black owned, and that people are so successful, and the presentation was fantastic. But I find myself almost guilty of saying that East Flatbush, which is a low-income Black neighborhood, is taking low-income African-American seniors and putting them with people who are coming from prisons, psych wards, and other populations where they could hurt seniors. Where's the concern for seniors who could be, are you mixing them together?
So first of all,
yeah,
Diana Richardson's district and project wasn't this one. That's the first thing. So you're incorrect about that. Utica Crescent was Nick Perry's district, not Diana's. That's the first thing. Second thing is that you're going to let me finish?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because I live in East Flatbush. I spent my entire life there, and I spent my entire life in 2000. If you want me to answer your question, let me answer your question. Be respectful.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The building is going to have on Utica Crescent is going to have a combination of seniors and families. We're going to have services on site. We're going to have security on site. We're going to serve the population that's consistent with what we've committed to and vetted with the state. And we're going to execute this project just like we executed every project we've ever worked on. The reality is that currently, for affordable senior housing in the city of New York, at this rent level, you're waiting 3 to 5 years. That's the truth. And for fair senior housing, you're waiting longer than that. This is high quality housing. Our seniors currently don't have this kind of quality housing. And where seniors currently live across the city of New York, they're at risk for a variety of things. And so from my perspective, to sort of describe this project as somehow an irresponsible execution of senior housing, anyone who understands how seniors who are low income and poor live in our city would never do that. This is something I spent my life doing. And so, you know, I'm respectfully a concern, but it's misplaced. That's the truth.
Thank you, Mr. Goodrich. Is there anyone else who has
Can I respond?
questions?
Can I respond to that?
Hold on, I'm going to leave the floor for anyone else who has questions. Ms. Burlett, you can have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a quick question. I just hear the mention of services. I wanted to know the type of services that you will have in place. What I want to say is like some senior might need, you know, a paper to be signed to get the assistance to get this affordable housing. And I'm curious to know the type of, you know, service that will be in place to assist those senior citizens.
So we've created a space for Catholic Charities in the building. Catholic Charities is a subsidiary of the Diocese of Brooklyn and Queens, and they serve seniors throughout the borough. And so from our perspective, what we expect from them is what they do in other communities. The Ishai Award includes a combination of rental subsidy and services, case management services for elderly. We can deliver to Ms. Fields what the typical service package is under the Ishai program for this population.
That would be awesome. We can have it sent to the office. That would be great. I see Ms. Kwashihan.
Yes, thank you. Would the residents of this community have priority in this housing first? Because I know in some other projects, when senior housing came available, we were left out.
So on New York City funded projects, there is a community preference where 50% of the units that are sold or rented go to community board residents. On state projects, I'm not sure that's the case, but I can confirm. I'll have Jazen or somebody on our team confirm what the marketing guidelines are for the state and share it with Ms. Fields. We don't have control over that. That's a decision that is made by the allocating agencies for volume cap and subsidy. On city projects, there is for example, on our projects in East New York, and in the Bronx and all over the city, we've done the allocating that are city projects. There is a community board preference. I believe, I'm not sure that exists on state projects, but we'll confirm and we'll share that information with you.
Thank you.
The one thing we can do, which I think is really important, is to keep the community board informed about the status of the project and make sure that you can disseminate information about the timeline of marketing, et cetera.
Yes, that would definitely be awesome. Thank you so much for that. Mr. Tate, I see your hand. You have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson Fields. Yes, mine is a simple question. First, I want to say I'm glad I am also a member at Clarendon Road Church, so I'm glad to see a person for Clarendon Road Church representing our community. But my simple is simple. I know you mentioned Catholic Charities, One Health, the grocery store, and the clergy council. But I wasn't clear whether or not they are coming in as permanent as partners or they are tenants in this building.
No, One Brooklyn. It's the idea on the One Brooklyn presence is they're going to provide health services out of that space. Jazen, I believe it's a dialysis center, right?
It was originally dialysis as proposed in the RFP. The hospital, is renovating their entire campus right now. And the current plans for that space are a little bit more ambiguous now.
Okay. But it is their space. They'll be able to use it as they view the community needs are. Catholic Charities will be in that space. 67th Precinct Council will be there as well. So we've made those commitments.
Okay, but it's not like a lease that after 10 years you're going to say, okay.
I think they'll all be leases, but the service provider with respect to Catholic Charities, for example, as long as they want to provide services there. Jazen, are we having Catholic Charities? And I don't think we're having Catholic Charities and the Precinct Council pay us rent. Jazen, is that correct?
That's correct.
So the Catholic Charities as a service provider and 67 Precinct Council as a community-based organization, which I support the work of the Precinct Council and the members there, we decided not to charge them rent for the spaces they have.
Thank you. You answered my question.
Thank
you. So
nice.
Thanks for the question, Mr. Tate.
Mr. Del Bennett, I'm sorry, Mr. Del Bennett, you mentioned something about background checks. You want to elaborate that, please? Ms. Bennett?
Can you hear me?
I hear you now.
Yeah, I want to know are they going to be doing background checks to protect the seniors?
Are we doing background checks? Is that a question?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm not a marketing person, but I can. Jazen, I hope you're keeping a list. I don't believe. I think generally speaking, there is a criminal background check that's a part of the marketing process, but I can confirm. As some of you may know, there's a movement to not have criminal background checks. The truth is we're going to comply with whatever the law is. And so from our perspective, we'll share with you whatever the marketing process is, including criminal background checks if that's a part of the process. But ultimately, if there is a prohibition on criminal background checks at the time we market this building, we won't be able to do that.
Well, the other part of my question is, how are you going to protect the seniors?
So the seniors in the building, I mean, we have security in the building, but the truth of the matter is, in any building, we run many senior buildings, and I've done many senior buildings throughout my career. You do the best you can. to provide quality, affordable housing for seniors, to have security. But I have no way to guarantee the safety of anyone, seniors or young people or families. We do the best we can. That's the answer. And I think I want to highlight what I said earlier. What standard are we holding folks to? I think the reality is that what we see now with seniors and families across the city is far inferior to what we're doing. We're creating a building that will be more affordable, nicer, and safer than almost any place in our neighborhood and across the city. I mean, that's the truth. And, particularly at these income levels and at these rents. And so who are we comparing ourselves to? I saw a question in the chat that said, when I said there's more than 30% minority owned, a question in the chat said only 30%. Well, tell me what percentage of ownership by Black people are all the buildings that are being built all up and down New York Avenue on my street or on Brooklyn Avenue. What percentage of those buildings are Black owned?
Well,
Zero. It's exactly. What standard are you holding us to? The standard 30% is a high number. And so I saw that in the chat and I was like, really? I see a lot of buildings going up and down my street. I live on New York Avenue. Down the street on New York Avenue. How many of those you think have Black? How many of those would sit here and answer your questions? First of all,
private projects.
How many of those owned by Black people?
They're private projects, as far as I know.
Listen, I'm just saying, we could hold people accountable. You could invite them to the community board, and if they don't come, you could note that, and the next time they need to come for a ULURP, any place in the city, you could let folks know. We invited them, they didn't want to come, and when they have a discretionary action, you squeeze them. There are ways to hold people accountable if you want to hold them accountable. I'm not here because somebody put a gun to my head. I'm here because it's my neighborhood.
To a state project.
I'm here because it's my neighborhood. I don't need to come to a community board. I'm here because it's my neighborhood that I grew up in, that I still live in, when I could live anywhere. I'm here to make myself accountable to my folks. And it's a state project. I don't need to come to a community board. I'm here because I respect you, and it's an honor to be in front of you. That's why I'm here. Why aren't they here? When they building projects in our neighborhood, ain't no Black people building them, ain't no Black people owning them, and they certainly aren't living on New York Avenue like me. I could live in a lot of places. I don't need to live on New York Avenue. I love my community.
Amen.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming out here too. Thank you so much. I have a question myself, since you're on there. How are people going to be applying for this? Are they going through Housing Connect, or are there a different application process? How are they getting access?
So it's not city, so it's not Housing Connect. I'm going to make sure our team shares the marketing process with you. It's a state project. It's different marketing.
Okay.
I'm going to make sure we share that, though, because I want to make sure we do the push to kind of get people out responding to this. I want to see people in my neighborhood live in this building. It's the first chance I've ever gotten to build something in my neighborhood. First. I've never done it before. I may not get another chance. Has to be done the right way.
Awesome. We appreciate that. It's so awesome. Do you have a timeline, like when you'll be taking applications for the project when you're
So it's going into construction, God willing, in the fall. Jazen, we expect like a 24-month construction period, right?
33 months.
33 months. But I'm going to share with you, have Jazen share with Ms. Fields and Ms. Frazier and everybody in Community Board 17 and 9, the time frame for marketing, make ourselves available, I just feel like we got to make a push to get folks in these buildings. That's how I feel. And whatever we can do within the letter of the law to make sure folks from 11203 and the other zip codes and these Flatbush and the surrounding areas get in these buildings, I think we got to make sure we do that. That's my
Okay,
point.
so thank you. So we only have time for 2 more questions. We have to get other speakers on. Ms. Chair Frey, you can go next. I mean, after Ms. Busby, those will be the last 2 questions. So Ms. Busby, you go first. You got the floor.
Thank you. I truly appreciate your passion, Mr. Goodrich, with regards to wanting to give back to the community. And I do understand the concerns of the individuals on the line with regards to security, because oftentimes we see how the system have failed, particularly our seniors and vulnerable populations. So with Utica Avenue being a very busy area, and with crime happening, I mean, we can't control who's going to commit the crime. And quite honestly, I don't think we should be as judgmental for individuals who have criminal records, because it's the ones that don't present with criminal justice issues who are involved in criminal acts, particularly when they see vulnerable populations. So, I mean, it's just a matter of understanding what your security system will be like. I understand having a security guard or a sign-in process would be one of the ways. However, in terms of video footage, will there be ring cameras or buzz-in protocol, like all these things, being able to understand.
Ms. Busby, I want to respond because I think you're making some good points. So, in addition to security person in all our buildings, we have pretty extensive video systems, and we partner with a couple of companies, but who actually spend a lot of time really focused on video footage of what's going on in our buildings. It's been actually over the last decade one of the real revolutions in the operation of multifamily buildings to have fairly extensive video cameras. There's not a time I present to a community board or an agency where the focus isn't on security. I think this is one of the areas where I think the narrative from many elected officials around defund the police departs from what I hear when I talk to community boards, where there's a laser focus on security. We want to be safe. We want to keep our families safe, our seniors safe, our vulnerable population safe. And so we always have a significant installation of cameras in our typical buildings. Jazan, I don't know if you know off the top of your head, but we have tons of cameras in common areas, hallways, stairwells, lobbies, etc. In all our buildings that we build new, it's a feature, and we pay for monitoring. That's a standard part of what happens in our buildings. So we work really hard to keep tenants safe, and it's a priority for us.
Thank you for that. And the other thing, I know you mentioned the lease waiver for the community organizations. Is that indefinite? And before you respond, I do understand. I know Chris. We've had some brief interactions in the past, particularly around training for construction for community residents. And sadly, not enough of our community members are engaging in opportunities that would lead them to careers in property management and in the construction industry, and for a lot of reasons. But I'm wondering exactly what the employment would look like with regards to individuals being a part of this development and how that vetting process will work.
Absolutely. So I'm going to start with the construction. So our company has sort of been, I think, one who's, for a variety of reasons, but my family, my father's was a licensed plumber. All the men in my family are basically have served in the trades, including myself. And so the focus on both hiring of MBE subcontractor suppliers and on labor force is important to us. So the state has guidelines. I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's probably 30% MWBE. I think if you talk to anyone at the state, we've been our ability to execute our projects and meet those goals, we've been really consistent with. But from my perspective, one of the things I'm proudest of is that process-wise, if you see a Monadnock trailer in the city, no matter what the neighborhood is, we have a process where we have the ability to route you through an employment opportunity. So if you are if you are involved in the Utica Crescent project, for example, and the employment there ends, or if we don't need anybody on Utica Crescent, we have the ability to look at other sites for you. And that's something that we didn't just pioneer for this project and are focused on. It's something that we've done for many years with our projects in the Bronx and across the city. And so our focus isn't on just compliance, just like my focus isn't only on sort of getting a certain MBE ownership. I do mentorship. I do a variety of things outside of this. So from my perspective, we've set up a process on every project to pull in MBEs as subcontractors and suppliers, and then we look at specific opportunities in terms of labor force. I can share with you what our process is, and you can make that available to folks. But it's something we've done across the city.
Thank you.
You had a question I think I missed.
It was the lease waiver for the community.
So it's important because we've had situations where it's not in perpetuity, only because we've had situations where we expect that you're going to do a service out of the space. It's not just free space. And so from my perspective, it's really important that whatever we agree that you're doing in the space to benefit the community or the residents in the building continue to happen. And if it doesn't happen, we have to have the ability to remove you. But we don't anticipate revenue from those spaces. What we do anticipate is that, one, if there are any costs, utility costs, et cetera, that you'll cover your costs and not pay us rent. And two, that you'll deliver the service that you say you're going to deliver out of the space. Those are the two requirements. And from our perspective, if you don't do those things, then we have the ability to remove you.
I'm sorry, Ms. Fields, just one more to tag on to that response. And with regards to if there's a removal, would there be an opportunity for another community-based organization?
Oh, absolutely.
Negotiations?
Absolutely. My commitment in East Flatbush isn't in my neighborhood, wouldn't be any less than my commitment in other cities, which is that in other communities, which is that space, like the clergy council space, is space that, in my mind, is for community services delivery. And obviously, because I grew up there and I still live there, I have a lot of relationships with folks. But I felt this was the right fit. But I'm not hard to find. And it's a commitment we've made with respect to that space and the community.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chair Frey, did you still want to speak, or are you good?
Yeah, with respect to your time, I'm going to cease my question. I'm just going to ask if Mr. Goodrich could just share his information, and I'll contact him at a more convenient time.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, so I would like to thank Mr. Goodrich for showing
Can I-
up for us
Ms.
tonight.
Fields, can I ask a quick question? I have my
I
hand
can't
raised.
right now because we have another presentation going and we're short on
Just
time.
one question. Just one question. It's very important. It'll be quick.
Can you write your question in the chat and then we can forward it to him for later?
Let's move on.
Can I
It
ask him
has
if he's
to
going to
end
come to
at
community?
9 o'clock, Ms. Fields, please.
We're gonna, you can put in the question thing and I'll forward it to him and later
That's not right.
Because we're short on time. I'm so sorry, but we're short on time. We have two presenters coming tonight. So I just want to thank Mr. Goodrich for showing up tonight. We appreciate your information. And again, if anyone else has any more questions for him, forward them to me and I'll forward it to him. Hopefully he can answer. And thank you. We appreciate you. This was a great presentation and we look forward to the updates that you're going to provide. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the floor, we have presenters coming from Periodic Gas Piping System. Good grief, I got tongue-tied. I don't see Mr. Vladimir Edward online. Does he have a representative here for him?
Hi, so the gas piping inspections are actually going to be done by the New York City Department of Buildings. So myself, Mr. Sean Jones, who is the chief of the Plumbing Enforcement Unit, is on. And actually, he's going to be the one presenting. He is an expert in the subject matter. Myself and my colleague Frank Fontana are also here to monitor the chat, to answer any questions. We're with the Community Engagement and Programming Unit. And Mr. Jones, like I said, is with the Plumbing Enforcement Unit. So should I share my screen? We have a PowerPoint presentation. Or Sean, do you want to share your screen?
Yes, I'll share my screen.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, good evening all. As the mayor stated, my name is Sean Jones. I'm the chief of Citywide Plumbing Enforcement. Today I'll be discussing local law 152 with regards to the periodic gas piping inspection that your community board is responsible for having conducted between January 1 of 2023 through December 31st of 2023. Okay, so introduction to the department. We're just gonna, because I know we're kind of pressed on time, so I'm just gonna actually breeze through the majority of these slides, and so we can just get right to the nuts and bolts. Okay, Local Law 152 of 2016. This became law. Basically, it derived from gas explosions that happened in Lower Manhattan, Second Avenue explosion, and the explosion that happened in Harlem in 2014 and 2015. With those gas explosions, unfortunately, there was lives lost, massive injuries, and loss of property due to negligence, faulty work being performed, things of that nature. So City Council decided to enact 9 different local laws in 2016, and Local Law 152 affects all buildings that falls outside of the realm of our R3 occupancy group. Okay, so the general question we get is, what's R3 occupancy group? Typically, a R3 is a 1 or 2 family dwelling, or 1 or 2 family building, or a monastery, a shelter, or a group home that houses less than 20 people. Okay. And the goal of this is basically to have eyes looking at gas piping systems continuously, right? Typically, property owners don't look at the gas piping system unless there's a problem with it. The goal of Local Law 152 is to catch these things before problems happen. Gas doesn't go boom. When a situation occurs with gas, it goes bang. So our key with regards to this local law is to avoid these things from happening. Okay, so like I said, buildings classified as R3 doesn't have to comply. Okay, this is basically a time frame. As you can see, your community district or community board is 7. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. Your community district is 17, which is required to have the local law conducted, as I stated, between January 1st and December 31st. And it's required to be conducted every 4 years thereafter. Okay, so what's required to be inspected under local law 152? All exposed gas piping. So if your building has gas piping, if you have a building that has a cellar or a mechanical room, a gas meter room, then those are the main things that has to be inspected. Where the gas enters the building, that has to be inspected. That's one of the main places. That's the number one. That's first and foremost what needs to be inspected. If you have a gas meter set outside of the building, that has to be inspected. The local law does not require that the inspections take place within the tenant space. So they are not required to enter into an apartment. If it's a commercial building, they're not required to enter into the tenant's use space unless if it's a commercial building and the tenant is responsible for the area where the gas meter and the point of entry where the gas enters the building, that part of the building, that is at minimum what has to be inspected. With other buildings where the tenant is not occupying the space, then the plumber is going to. I'm sorry, can someone mute themselves, please?
Okay, let's try to find who it is.
Okay, so I was saying the property owner is going to hire a licensed master plumber, the licensed plumber or his authorized representative, someone that is in a direct employment of him, will be performing these inspections for you. Okay, and the way that you can verify if these individuals are approved to do this, you can card them. They have to take a training course, and they're provided with a certification card to perform local law 152 inspections. So before you allow someone to perform an inspection, I strongly recommend that you verify that these individuals have the capabilities and the necessary training and certification to do so. Okay, so like I said, you're required to have the exposed gas piping. So you're not required to open up any walls. We're not going to remove drop ceiling tiles. None of these things are required to be inspected. They're going to look at your mechanical room. They're going to look at your laundry rooms. They're going to inspect your piping as it passes from the meter setup to different areas within the building. If you have mechanical rooms on floors within the building, they're going to inspect those as long as it's outside of the tenant space. If you have units installed on the roof, that has to be inspected. You have a fire pit in the backyard. You have a barbecue in the backyard. That has to be inspected. Okay, now the important things about the local law, right? So bullet point number 3, if your building does not contain gas piping, you must still have the inspection performed regardless every 4 years. You have to obtain the services of a licensed master plumber, a design licensed engineer, or a registered architect, or a professional engineer. Okay, and they're going to come in, they're going to look at the building, they're going to verify that there's no gas piping in the building. They're going to give you a document called the GPS-2. That document, as the property owner, you are required to upload that document into the Department of Buildings portal to certify that your inspection was conducted. You'll see the information as to how to go about in providing the department with that information. If your building contains gas piping, but is not currently supplied gas and does not contain any appliances connected to the gas piping system, then there's a process for that, right? So we know that there's buildings under construction and renovation and so forth and so on. That piping system still exists in the building. It might be a possibility that where the gas enters the building at, that line might still be active. If that line is still active, then technically you have an active piping system. What determines the line not to be active, you're required to contact your respective utility company, which would be National Grid, and inquire whether or not your building's gas piping system is live. If they tell you that it's not, then they can provide you with a document that informs you of such as to when the last time the building had an active gas service. You are required to upload that document as well as a notarized letter from yourself indicating that the building no longer has any gas appliances connected to the gas piping system. Okay, so again, like I said, tenant spaces are not required to be inspected with the exception of the point of entry. Buried gas piping. Again, buried gas piping consists of piping behind the walls and ceilings and drop ceilings, buried in the underground and at the lowest level of the building, in the floor, and it's concrete. Those things are not required to be inspected. Okay. So how to complete the inspection? Like I said, you hire a licensed master plumber to inspect your building. The way you do that is you go to the New York City Department of Buildings Information System. You type in the licensed plumber's license number or his name, and you verify that his license is valid. If it come up as not being valid, that is not the person to utilize to perform this inspection for you, because it'll be a waste of time, energy, and money, as you will still be subject to have this inspection conducted by a licensed professional. Okay, you can also verify if this particular licensee had any disciplinary actions taken against them by the Department of Buildings, such as suspension of his license, revocation of his license, different penalties assessed to him, things of that nature. So you can know who the individual is that you're doing business with. And you can do that by utilizing our Know Your Professional tool on our Department of Buildings webpage.
Sorry, Sean, I'm just putting a link to the Department of Buildings information system and to check if the licenses or disciplinary actions. I'm putting that in the chat. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so in order for this inspection to be successful, it can't be done in portions. At all times, the inspection is required to be started and completed as a whole, okay? Because what I see today, somebody might go and alter it tomorrow or a week later. What might not be leaking today might be leaking tomorrow or later. So we always want these inspections to be completed as a whole, right? You don't want portions to be done. If there's no access to certain areas of the building, then the plumber or his authorized representative should understand and know that they should not even start the inspection. That's things that you have to work out with the individuals that you hire. Okay. Once the inspection is completed, the licensed master plumber is required to provide you, the property owner, manager, whomever may be there to represent the building, a copy of the GPS-1, the gas pipe and inspection periodic inspection report. Okay, they have to give that to you within 30 days. They should be giving you a copy of the report as well as the certification within 30 days. So you should receive 2 documents from your licensed master plumbing company or his authorized representative with your inspection details, whether or not there's conditions that need to be corrected, if there's no conditions, so forth and so on. Okay? And you are required to upload that GPS-2, the certification form, into the Department of Buildings inspection portal. Okay, a lot of people, tend to have, not as savvy with the Department of Buildings website. So a lot of people tend to, allow the licensee to do the upload for them. That's perfectly fine. I strongly recommend, though, is that you provide them with an email address, a valid email address, so that when they upload the document, you'll get a electronic receipt indicating that the document was provided to the Department of Buildings. Okay. Okay, so this is a copy. This is what the documents look like, right? Okay. So to the left is the front view. right? So you can provide your information, your owner's information. They're going to provide the information. All of these documents that we're going to look at is to be completed by the licensed master plumber or his authorized representative, the person performing the inspection. Okay, and it's gonna give us some kind of details and information associated with your building. How many meters installed in the building, number of stories of the building, which community board your building resides in, how many gas meters are active. Then towards the bottom in section number 4, this is the important stuff, right? This is where we start looking for specific issues that might be associated with the gas piping system. We want to verify if there's a gas leak, right? So the person performing the leak is going to do a leak survey. He's going to walk around with a portable gas leak detector, and he's going to wand areas of the gas piping to verify that there's no leak being detected. Also, when he's walking the building, he's responsible for wanding around the tenant's door or within the commercial space just as well. They are still trying to get readings to see if there's a potential leak within the space. Okay, they're not to enter the space, but they're still responsible for doing a leak survey around the space. They're going to check for different levels of corrosion of the gas piping. Level 3 and level 4, those are dangerous conditions. They're going to cite that on this document. They're going to check for illegal and unapproved materials installed. They're going to check for illegal connections. They're going to check for all types of unsafe conditions that the average person might not be aware how dangerous it is, right? Okay, and they're going to certify this stuff that they, as a licensed professional with the city of New York, that they verify that this information is true and accurate, and they're supplying it to the Department of Buildings. You, as the property owner, manager, owner's representative, or whomever, you're required to retain this document for 6 years. Just in case I send one of my inspectors out to your property to do an audit to verify that this inspection took place and what the plumber stated is actually there, you have to provide us with a copy of this. If you choose not to provide us with a copy of this, you're subject to a violation, right? We don't want to give you a violation just for not giving us a copy of the document. We don't give you a violation immediately because not all owners live on the property. We provide you with information. We leave notification on the property for you to reach out to us. We typically give up to 72 hours for this document to be provided to us. Sometimes we give longer. It depends on the volume of work. We might not be able to get to it right away. But we'll reach out to you and let you know that we need this information from you ASAP. Okay, and this is the certification. This is the document that you must submit to the Department of Buildings, right? And again, you're going to provide your owner's information, the plumber's information. If the licensee him or herself did not perform this work, then the person that performed the inspection, you're gonna get their information. If your building, like I said, has no gas piping, then your design professional, engineer, architect, or licensed master plumber is going to check off the box for number 4, sign and seal it, submit it to the Department of Buildings. If your building has gas piping, they're going to check off one of the boxes in section 5. If there's conditions, they're going to check off the box. If there's no conditions, they're going to check off the box. What's important is the inspection date. Right, the date of the initial inspection. So if conditions are observed in your building when the inspector comes out, let's say I came out and did an inspection on your property on today, 3/9/2023. My date of inspection is 3/9/2023. Let's say I observe some conditions that I can't fix right then and there. I have to get some time. I have to obtain a permit to correct these conditions. Or maybe you decide that you want to hire another individual to correct the conditions. But you want me to come back out and do the local law re-inspection again. So anytime conditions are observed that requires time, a re-inspection is required to be conducted. And that re-inspection, they're going to come to verify that the conditions that they originally cited are no longer there. And they're going to submit that second document to the Department of Buildings to close out the process, right? But on the second document, they still must list the date of the initial inspection, which is today, 3/9/2023. Okay? And they're going to sign and seal and send it in. Now, not at no time are you required as the property owner, manager, or representative, are you required to use the same plumber or plumbing company to do the reinspection or to perform the corrective actions or corrective work. You have every discretion and every right to hire whatever other individuals that you're going to hire as long as they're licensed professionals. Do not allow unlicensed workers to perform work on your gas piping system. To perform work on a gas piping system, a permit is required to be obtained by a licensed master plumber. Okay, so again, I strongly urge to be cautious with gas. It does not go bang, it goes boom. Okay, so when you're dealing with correcting the unsafe conditions, initially you have all this is, I'm not even gonna, construe this, right? You have 180 days from the date of the initial inspection to have the corrections made. It's just really that simple, right? I'm not gonna break it down from the 120 days after they give you the document. It's 180 days from the date of initial inspection. So if you had your inspection conducted on 3/9/2023, you have 180 days, which will put you sometime in September, to have this condition corrected. If not, you are allowed to go into our portal and request an extension of an additional 180 days. Okay? Failure to correct the conditions within the allotted time frame, you're subject to a $5,000 violation. Failure to have the initial inspection conducted, you're subject to a $5,000 violation. Okay? If there's hardships, I strongly urge and recommend that you reach out to the Department of Buildings and communicate with us so we can try to, figure out ways to try to see how we can possibly assist, so forth and so on. But being mute and not saying anything is a problem, okay? And we want to avoid any problems, especially, when it's associated with gas piping. Okay? So this is just basically a process to assist you with submitting the documents to the Department of Buildings. I guess the community board, they can provide you with this information as needed. We gave them a copy of the PowerPoint. Okay, and here's the resources, okay? So for Local Law 152, you can go to our website, and again, it has you can do the service notice that lets you know what Local Law 152 is about. You can go to our website and look at the actual local law itself. You can do our frequently asked questions, as well as you can obtain a copy of the documentation as well as the submission portal. Okay, you can submit any questions or concerns to the Plumbing Enforcement Unit. That's the unit that I'm responsible for. And our hotline number is available for you to call us, as well as you can send us an email to the Local Law 152 email account. Okay, our hours of operation is 8:30 to 4:30. As I said, this is not a normal telephone line; it's a hotline. So my strongest recommendation is that you send us an email. There's four or five individuals that man this email on a day-to-day basis. So you can get more results and more detailed information in the email. If you have any questions, concerns regarding whether or not your building is required to have the inspection done, you can always call us or send us an email. We can check to verify that information for you. Okay. This is the information with regards to how to use the license tool search to verify if the licensed plumber license or the plumber's license is valid and active, as well as you can find the information as to with regards to disciplinary actions taken. Okay. To obtain the documentation from the utility companies, I provided the email address for National Grid, as they don't have a telephone number for that. And well, you all are not in Con Edison's jurisdiction, but that's there for individuals that you may know that may need that also. To report an immediately hazardous condition, I strongly urge that you call 911 if you ever smell gas. 911 always respond a whole lot faster than the utility company comes out. and the utility company will 911 will always call the utility company. If you have any other questions or concerns, you can always call the utility company with those. But for a gas leak, I strongly urge that you call 911 so the fire department can come out and shut that off instantly. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Does anyone
Okay.
have any questions?
I have a few. Mr. Jones and Ms. Falero, thank you for the presentation. I work pro bono with several neighbors, and I just want to tell you that I've reached out to your plumbing enforcement unit several times regarding this question. You failed to mention in the presentation that the R3 occupancy requirement sometimes applies and sometimes it doesn't. There are many clients that I'm working with who received notification of local law 152 as a series of solicitations from licensed plumbers. Unbeknownst to them, their units are listed, their buildings are listed as C0, which is 3-family. So and your local law 152 instruction specifically says that if you do not have a certificate of occupancy for the home that you live in, then the DOB will default to the Department of Finance designation. So if you're in a 2-family and you don't know that you're listed at DOF as a 3-family and you don't have a certificate of occupancy, then a lot of people, which are the people that I'm working with, are surprised and they don't know that they have to perform this inspection. I mean, there might be 20 people on this community board meeting, but we've received no official notification. I certainly haven't received any official notification from the Department of Building about local law 152. And I found out about it only because I'm a professional. And so, there's a big problem there because you have a lot of people in this community that don't have certificates of occupancy that live in what are construed as 2 families with a cellar that may be being used illegally, right? But that are listed as 3 families and are going to be forced to comply with this inspection.
That's not necessarily true, right? Because if your property is, if you know your property to be a 2-family, then you're not even going to perform the inspection. Or if you seek or if you get a solicitation, you're going to inquire about that solicitation. That's what we get on a day-to-day basis. On average, our email account receives about 200 emails a day. Right. So it's no question that's a major problem. I seriously, empathize with the individuals that are encountering this, and that's why we put it out there. And we get these calls every single day, nonstop, and we check to verify, and we try to ease people's minds. We let them know that they're not required to have the inspection done, but we do try to instruct them to try to get that information corrected with the Department of Finance. It's a major problem. Even more so, not only are you listed as a 3-family, but you're being taxed as a 3-family.
Well,
right?
I mean, the tax class, that is true. The tax class is the same for 1 to 3 families, but more importantly, I think because they don't know, and they may be, one of the things that I asked your department was that you haven't provided any fines to any of the other community boards that have not complied. So we don't know how many people have not complied, and we don't know how many people are going to get fined. So, a year from now, when the DOB decides that they are going to start finding people that have not complied, we're going to have an even bigger problem on our hands because this is citywide, right? You have thousands, if not tens of thousands of people that are listed incorrectly at the Department of Finance that are going to receive fines from the DOB, and they would not have known.
Right. And that I mean, but that's hopefully those people just if they know that their property is misclassified and they received a fine, they feel that fine is filed, provided erroneously. Hopefully they won't just pay the fine out. Hopefully they reach out to the department and we can take care of that. The process to classify your fine or oath summons as written in error it's a very short-term process, right? It's not like you're going to receive a fine and now we're going to start taking money from you automatically. We have no authority to do so, right? You have a fine. We're looking for you to pay the fine. However, when you challenge it, regardless of the time frame, let's say, right, the fine can be on your property. You receive the $5,000 penalty. Let's say today you receive that penalty. Let's say 2 years from now you want to go do some work on your property and you haven't paid the penalty. You can't obtain a permit technically because you have this penalty on your property. Now you start raising issues about that. Now the department is looking into this, and now we can classify this fine as a written in error based on the classification of the property. Do understand, right? The same way that this is brand new to the 400,000 plus properties that's required to comply with this law, it's brand new to us also. It's a learning curve for everyone right now. And what's key is that because it's a learning curve, we're not penalizing anybody for compliance or non-compliance. Yeah. However, we are issuing violations in association with a lot of things because it's a lot of things that's not being done, a lot of misguided information, a lot of false information is being provided to the department with regards to these inspections. So the important thing is that we want these inspections to be conducted, right? Because the number one thing is the safety of New Yorkers, right? Because again, gas does not go bang. When you're dealing with an explosion, you're dealing with a major situation, right? And I personally am responsible for going out, looking at these type of things, and providing reports and so forth and so on. So it's not something that you want to see. It's a horrific scene to see this. So this is what makes Local Law 152 so important. In all honesty, me personally, I don't think that no property should be exempt. Personally,
right. I mean that's a great point. I have one more particular question about the inspection, because in the explanation you said that if there is a correction, then the work has to be performed by a licensed master plumber. So usually in the field, when a licensed master plumber does work, you have a pro cert authorization from the master plumber. Does the DOB need to come out and inspect the work that was done?
Certainly. When work has to be corrected, a permit is required to be obtained. Right. Inspections are required under the permit.
Correct. Sometimes, but sometimes a master plumber can file for a pro cert inspection. But in this case,
that's just an inspection. That's just the inspection. But the pro cert of the inspection that he has to perform is just the pipe, the actual piping. The what's called the rough end inspection, where the piping might potentially be enclosed behind walls, ceilings, or whatever the case may be. But he still has to have a physical inspection where a Department of Buildings inspector is going to come out and conduct the gas test as well as the gas finish inspection. Because when you have to alter the gas piping system, you have to shut the gas meter off. So there's going to be some downtime when you don't have gas, right? You have to contact the utility company. They're going to come. They're going to shut and lock the gas meter off. So in order for that to be restored, you're going to have to perform those inspections and get the approval and authorization from the Department of Buildings. If they don't do that, then the gas will never be turned back onto that property unless they do so illegally, which is something that this is the purpose of Local Law 152. We want to crack down on the illegal and unsafe activity of gas piping systems.
Thank you. Next on the floor, it looks like George Tate. You have your hand raised. Mr. Tate, go ahead.
Yes, I do. And thank you, Mr. Jones, and thank you, Mr. Cespedes, because my question was, you brought up part of my question, because Mr. Jones mentioned that our 3 homes, which are 1 and 2 family homes, are exempt. However, I own a 2-family home, and twice already I received, I have had inspection come and been done, because unbeknown to me, I received a letter, not a kind of letter either, from an unknown company, I forget the name, saying that they had to come and do inspect my my gas line. I call National Grid and they say, yes, this was mandated by the city. They came, that was about 3 years ago. And then last year, the same thing happened. I call again, they came, they inspected it, and they say, you are fine. You don't have to worry again for another 3 years. So I'm a little confused here. If our 1 and 2 family homes are exempt from this, why is National Grid contracting an outside company to come and do inspection in my house? And not only my house,
That's
but on the block. Mhm.
That's a different inspection, sir. That's a state mandated inspection required by the New York State Public Service Commission that the utility companies has to do also. So, right, this type of inspection has happened twice. It's happening twice. One which is the Public State Commission is required to do, which the utility company is responsible for having done. So there's no cost to the property owner when the utility company is doing this. However, Local Law 152 is a total different inspection. The Local Law 152 inspection. So with the inspection that's required by the Public State Commission, no one's exempt. Everything gets inspected. 1 and 2 family homes, properties with gas meters inside of the home, nothing's exempt. Every building that has gas supplied to it in New York City will be inspected by the utility company. Local Law 152 makes exemptions, and 1 and 2 family properties are exempt.
Thank you for the clarification.
So you, sir, are not required to obtain the services of a licensed plumber and pay him to have this done because your property is a 2-family.
Again, thank you for the clarification. Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have time for 2 more questions and that's it. So who else would like to ask a question? No one else? Okay, thank you so much for coming along, Mr. Jones and your team. Oh wait, we have one question in the chat. Exempt Law 152 that is from Mr. Johnson, can you explain your question better? Mr. Johnson?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry. I missed what you said, Ms. Fields.
Can you explain your question better so he can answer it?
No, my question was answered. I just wanted to confirm that 1 or 2 family homes were exempt from the 152 law.
Okay.
That was it. Thank you very much.
But keep in mind, sir, that if you have a 1 and 2 family and you have a commercial establishment on the first floor,
yes,
an office space, a store, whatever it may be, you are not exempt.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, so again, thank you so much for Mr. Jones and the rest of his team for coming by and making this great presentation. And if you have any more questions for him, you can forward it to the office and we can forward it to them so we can get your questions answered. And thank you so much for this presentation. And now we are going to be moving on to finish off this meeting with unfinished business for committee members. Any committee members have any unfinished business that they would like to discuss? Raise your hand so we can get it on the floor. Any unfinished business? No. So we have new business. I have new business.
Sorry.
Yes,
the
okay.
only unfinished business is the minutes, and is there anyone here where we can approve the minutes, or will we table it for the next meeting?
I think we're gonna have to table it because I only see 1, 2 people that are actually on the committee.
Okay.
So everyone is board members, but they're not in the committee. Okay. The new business that we have, I wanted to discuss with everyone who are here about the housing fair that we're going to have in June. We're going to do it again this year. And this time around, I invited our neighbors, CB9 and CB14, to participate. So far, I got CB9 to say yes. I'm waiting for CB14, just so we can have a better fair and be able to support community better. So we have $1,000 from discretionary funds to do the giveaways and things for this year. And we're working on getting some donations as well. So we're going to start planning for that. And just want to let you all know that we're looking at doing it on the 18th of June for Sunday, so this way we can make sure we don't not include everyone this time around for everything. We want to make sure they will be able to attend. So if you have anything that you want to add to it or help us plan or volunteer for that day, that would be great. And we will be sending save the dates out starting next week. So this way everyone will have it on their calendar and will be able to participate. And let's see. So that's about it. And so if anyone would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting, that would be fantastic. Anybody from
We
the
can
community
adjourn.
board?
We can adjourn.
Okay. Thank you. Meeting adjourned. It is 9:20. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. Enjoy your night. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Take good care.
Bye.
Good night. Good night.